Stop scrolling. Top 4 Washington Quarter Dollars Worth Big Money. Welcome to Numismatic Vault Extra. Today, we're exploring 4 of the most valuable Washington Quarter Dollars from the United States of America, United States. In this video, we'll break down their current market values, highlight notable era coins, and explain the specific conditions that make certain Washington quarters extremely rare. This includes silver compositions, unique color shades, and special features that have made these coins major players in the coin collector and investor world. These rare treasures are not just pieces of history. They are also some of the most valuable coins collectors are actively hunting today. So, if you're a coin enthusiast, an investor, or someone who appreciates the beauty and significance of American currency, backhand index pointing right, this video is for you. Let's get started with the first coin. Magnifying glass tilted left money bag. The hidden story of the 1995 P. Washington Quarter. A coin from a quiet turning point. Not every valuable story in American coinage comes from ancient dates or glittering metals. Some stories are hidden inside years we think we already understand. The 1995 Washington Quarter with the P mint mark is one of those quiet witnesses. Born in an era of transition, overlooked by the public, yet deeply connected to the final moments of traditional American coin culture. By 1995, the Washington Quarter had become one of the most familiar objects in everyday life. It moved through hands without ceremony, paying for parking meters, vending machines, newspapers, and phone calls. Its familiarity made it invisible, and invisibility is often where history hides best. The Philadelphia Mint, marked by the simple P beneath the date, struck these quarters during a time when America stood between two worlds. The digital age was approaching rapidly, yet physical money still ruled daily transactions. Coins like this one carried the final echoes of an era where metal still mattered. Although silver had long disappeared from circulating quarters, the memory of silver still shaped how people thought about money. Older generations remembered weight, sound, and substance. That collective memory gave emotional value to coins far beyond their metal content. Inside the mint, production in 1995 was relentless. Quarters were struck in massive numbers to meet constant demand. Machines worked without pause, and human hands guided systems designed for speed. In such conditions, subtle differences naturally emerged. Tiny variations that marked each coin as a product of its exact moment. Some 1995 P quarters display particularly strong strikes, with clear details in Washington's hair and sharp lettering along the rim. These qualities give the coin a presence that feels deliberate, even when born from mass production. To collectors, these details are silent signals of quality. Most of these quarters lived hard, ordinary lives. They were scratched, worn, dropped, and forgotten. They did exactly what money was meant to do: move. Survival in pristine condition was never the goal, which is why survival becomes meaningful. Yet a small number escaped that fate. They were set aside unintentionally, lost in drawers, jars, or forgotten collections. These coins avoided decades of friction and wear, preserving a moment in time that cannot be recreated. Collectors understand that rarity often comes from condition rather than age. A quarter that survives untouched becomes a quiet exception. It stands out not because it was meant to be special, but because chance allowed it to endure. The Washington Quarter carries emotional authority. George Washington's image represents steadiness, restraint, and leadership, qualities that resonated deeply in the mid-1990s as America faced rapid technological and cultural change. The 1995 P quarter sits near the end of a long chapter in American coinage. Only a few years later, major design changes and new series would redefine how Americans viewed quarters. This coin belongs to the last generation of the classic, uninterrupted Washington design. As time moves forward, fewer untouched examples remain. Coins are lost, damaged, or spent again. Each disappearance strengthens the importance of those that survive, quietly increasing their historical weight. There is something powerful about rediscovering a coin from this era. It reconnects us to a time before mobile payments, before tap-to-pay, when money had sound, texture, and presence. That connection gives the coin meaning beyond numbers. This is why knowledgeable collectors pause before dismissing older quarters. Once spent again, a coin's story continues anonymously. Once preserved, it becomes a witness to a specific moment in American life. In the end, the 1995 P. Washington Quarter is not about instant wealth or dramatic transformation. It is about understanding how value grows quietly over time. It reminds us that history often hides in ordinary places, and that recognizing what we hold can change how we see everything else. Next up, the quiet mystery of the 1979 D. Washington Quarter, a coin from a changing America. In the long river of American coinage, some coins rush past unnoticed, while others linger quietly, carrying stories far heavier than their metal. The 1979 Washington Quarter with the D mint mark belongs to that quiet category. It is not flashy, not ancient, yet it was born during a moment when America itself was standing between old values and a rapidly changing future. By 1979, the Washington Quarter had already become one of the most trusted coins in the nation. Its familiar design had survived wars, economic shifts, and cultural revolutions. George Washington's profile had become a symbol of stability, reminding Americans of leadership and endurance even as daily life became more complex. The Denver Mint, marked by the small d beneath the date, struck these quarters during a time of economic pressure and high circulation demand. Inflation, energy crises, and social change defined the era. Coins moved quickly, passing from hand to hand, rarely paused for inspection. This was long after silver had officially disappeared from circulating quarters, yet the memory of silver still lived in the public mind. Many Americans continued to associate quarters with weight and value, unconsciously listening to their sound or feeling their balance, habits formed in earlier decades. The 1979 D quarter exists within this tension between memory and reality. It looks the same as earlier quarters, yet it represents a fully modern age of coinage. That contrast gives it symbolic power. It is familiar, yet fundamentally different from what came before. Inside the mint, production was relentless. Machines worked continuously, striking millions of coins to keep up with demand. In such environments, subtle differences naturally emerged. Slight variations in strike strength, surface texture, and edge appearance became the quiet fingerprints of that year. Most of these quarters lived hard lives. They paid for groceries, bus fares, parking meters, and late-night coffee. They were scratched, worn, and forgotten. Survival was never the goal. Use was. Yet some quarters escaped that fate. A handful were set aside unintentionally, trapped in jars, drawers, or forgotten envelopes. These coins avoided years of friction, retaining sharp details, clean fields, and a presence that feels almost frozen in time. Collectors understand that condition is often rarer than age. A quarter that survives decades with strong detail becomes a quiet exception. It stands apart not because it was meant to be special, but because chance allowed it to endure. The Denver Mint mark anchors the coin to a specific place and workforce. It represents American industry operating at full speed, responding to national need. That small letter carries the weight of human effort, machinery, and time. The Washington Quarter itself has always carried emotional authority. Washington's image is not decorative, it is grounding. It reflects restraint, leadership, and steadiness. In 1979, those qualities mattered deeply to a nation navigating uncertainty. Coins like the 1979 D quarter gain significance slowly. They are not celebrated immediately. Their importance grows as years pass, as fewer examples remain untouched, and as the era that created them fades into history. There is something deeply human about rediscovering such a coin. It connects the present to a time before digital payments, before instant transfers, when money had weight and sound and presence. It reminds us how recently that world existed. This is why experienced collectors always pause before dismissing older quarters. Once spent again, a coin's journey continues without memory. Once preserved, it becomes a witness, silent, patient, and honest. In the end, the 1979 D Washington Quarter is not about instant wealth or dramatic discovery. It is about understanding how history hides inside ordinary objects. It teaches us that even the most familiar coins can carry quiet importance, and that recognizing value often begins with simply paying attention. Next up, the quiet legacy of the 1977 D Washington Quarter, a coin few truly understand. In the world of American coins, not every legend announces itself with gold or fanfare. Some stories are quiet, hidden in plain sight, waiting for time to reveal their importance. The 1977 Washington Quarter with a D mint mark is one such coin, ordinary to the hurried spender, yet deeply intriguing to those who understand how history, change, and chance can transform common money into something far more meaningful. By 1977, the Washington quarter had already lived many lives. Introduced during the Great Depression, it carried the image of George Washington through war, economic recovery, cultural change, and technological growth. Generations grew up with this familiar face in their pockets, trusting it without question. That familiarity is exactly what allowed certain years and mint marks to fade quietly into the background. The Denver Mint in 1977 was operating in an era of speed and volume. America's economy depended on massive coin production, and quarters were among the most heavily used denominations. Millions were struck, shipped, and spent almost immediately. These coins were never meant to be admired, they were meant to move. Yet history has a way of hiding importance inside routine. Coins struck during periods of economic pressure and high demand often show subtle differences. Variations in strike strength, surface texture, edge appearance, and overall finish emerge naturally when machines work endlessly to keep up with national need. These details are not mistakes, they are fingerprints of a moment in time. The 1977 D quarter represents an America firmly rooted in modern metal coinage, long after silver had vanished from everyday circulation. Still, the memory of silver had not disappeared from the public's mind. Many people instinctively examined quarters, weighed them in their hands, listened to their sound. Habits formed during earlier decades when metal truly mattered. Because of this lingering awareness, some 1977 quarters were set aside without explanation. They were not saved for profit, but out of instinct. A coffee can in a garage, a jar in a kitchen, a box passed down through a family. These places became silent guardians of coins that would otherwise have vanished through wear and loss. Time plays a crucial role in shaping value. A quarter that survives decades without heavy circulation tells a different story than one worn smooth by thousands of transactions. Sharp lettering, defined hair detail on Washington's portrait, and strong eagle features on the reverse transform a simple coin into a preserved historical object. Collectors understand that true rarity often comes from condition, not just production numbers. Millions may have been minted, but very few remain untouched. Each year that passes reduces that number further, as coins are damaged, lost, or spent. Survivors become quieter, rarer witnesses to their era. The D mint mark connects the coin directly to Denver, a facility known for rugged efficiency and consistency. That small letter beneath the date anchors the coin to a physical place, a workforce, and a moment when America relied heavily on durable, dependable coinage to fuel daily life. What makes the Washington quarter emotionally powerful is its role in American identity. It is not flashy. It does not demand attention. Like Washington himself, it represents steadiness, endurance, and quiet authority. That symbolism gives the coin meaning beyond its metal content. Coins like the 1977 D quarter gain importance not through hype, but through survival. They remind us that value can grow slowly, shaped by time, memory, and scarcity. A coin ignored today may be studied tomorrow. A coin spent casually may have been the last of its kind in pristine form. History shows us that the most interesting coins are often those born during stable periods. Wartime coins and crisis coins attract attention immediately, but peacetime coins tell subtler stories. Stories of routine, growth, and quiet national confidence. For collectors, holding a well-preserved 1977 D quarter is like holding a paused moment from the late 20th century. It carries the weight of an America before digital payments, before instant transactions, when money still had a physical presence in everyday life. This is why knowledgeable collectors advise caution before dismissing older quarters. Once spent, a coin's journey continues without record. Once preserved, its story remains intact. Examination, patience, and respect for history are what separate discovery from regret. In the end, the 1977 D Washington quarter is not about instant wealth or dramatic transformation. It is about understanding how history hides inside ordinary objects. It teaches us that even the most familiar coins can carry quiet significance, and that sometimes the power to change perspective, if not fortune, rests in the smallest details. The forgotten turning point. The 1965 Washington quarter without a mint mark. Sometimes the most powerful stories in American money are not found in gold vaults or museum displays, but in ordinary coins that once passed quietly from hand to hand. One such story begins in 1965, a year when the United States made a dramatic decision that would forever change its coinage. In that year, the Washington quarter, familiar, trusted, and deeply woven into everyday life, crossed a line between two eras, and in doing so, created one of the most fascinating chapters in modern coin history. For more than 3 decades before 1965, the Washington quarter was made of real silver. It carried weight, value, and a sound that rang with substance. Americans trusted it not only as money, but as something solid, a small piece of national wealth in every pocket. But rising silver prices and economic pressure forced the nation to make a difficult choice. In 1965, the United States officially ended the use of silver in quarters meant for circulation. The change was swift and historic. New quarters were produced with a layered metal structure instead of solid silver, and mint marks were temporarily removed to discourage hoarding and speculation. From that moment forward, every quarter would look the same, or so it seemed. The absence of a mint mark on 1965 quarters was intentional, yet it also added mystery. Without a visible origin, these coins became anonymous travelers of a divided moment in time. They represented the first steps into a new monetary reality, while still carrying the familiar face of George Washington, a symbol of stability during uncertainty. Moments of transition are where history becomes unpredictable. Mints operate at high speed, under pressure, adjusting materials, machinery, and procedures. In such moments, unexpected things happen. Coins are struck on the wrong metal, blanks are mixed, and quiet anomalies slip through unnoticed. These moments are not planned. They are born from change. The 1965 Washington quarter exists at exactly this crossroads. Though the official standard had changed, the echoes of silver had not completely vanished. The idea that a coin from this year could carry characteristics of the past gives it a powerful mystique. It is not simply a quarter, it is a symbol of a nation letting go of precious metal and stepping into modern economics. What gives this coin its legendary reputation among collectors is not what most people see, but what a careful eye looks for. Weight, edge color, sound, surface texture. These quiet details can whisper secrets about how and when a coin was born. A quarter that behaves differently than expected immediately raises questions, and in the world of numismatics, questions are the beginning of value. Millions of 1965 quarters were produced and spent without hesitation. They paid for coffee, newspapers, bus rides, and meals. Yet some were set aside, not for wealth, but for memory. Drawers, jars, and forgotten boxes became accidental vaults, preserving coins that never endured heavy circulation. Time is the greatest sculptor of rarity. As years pass, coins disappear, spent, damaged, melted, or lost. What survives does so by chance, not design. A quarter that remains clean, sharp, and unchanged decades later becomes more than money. It becomes evidence of a moment that can never happen again. The Washington quarter itself carries deep historical weight. First issued during the Great Depression, it honored the nation's first president at a time when Americans needed reassurance and strength. That same image remained unchanged through war, prosperity, and transformation, anchoring generations to a familiar symbol. The 1965 version holds special emotional power because it marks an ending. It was the year America quietly said goodbye to circulating silver, not with ceremony, but with practicality. That silent farewell gives the coin an almost poetic significance, a last echo of tangible wealth before abstraction took over. Collectors are drawn to such moments because they cannot be recreated. No mint can strike another first year without silver. No policy can undo that shift. Coins born in transition become historical fingerprints, small, permanent reminders of change. There is also something deeply human about this story. A coin meant to be spent becomes something to be studied. A piece of change becomes a conversation with the past. It reminds us that value is not always loud or obvious. Sometimes it hides inside familiarity. This is why experienced collectors urge caution before dismissing old quarters. A coin that looks ordinary may hold extraordinary context. Once spent, its connection to history fades. Once preserved, it becomes a bridge between generations. In the end, the 1965 Washington quarter without a mint mark is not just about metal or money. It is about transformation, loss, and survival. It represents a turning point in American life, frozen in a small, round form. And for those who understand its story, it proves that even the quietest coins can carry the loudest legacy. Next up,